Hi, Scott Orlin with Cinema-Magazine. A new film is coming your way. It is called Max Cloud, and I am here with the star of the movie, Scott Adkins. Scott, the film kind of takes place in the world of video games. I was wondering, what is your own relationship to them?
I played a fair few when I was growing up. Absolutely. I've been through all the major consoles. Don't play it so much anymore, though. Maybe when my kids get a little bit older, I'll get back into it inadvertently. But yeah,
What I loved about what I loved about this movie, kind of the nostalgic feel. It like for me, it felt like these Saturday morning TV shows I watched like back in the '70s, and I love that aesthetic about it.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's like these days it's fun to make something for the kids, but also the adults can enjoy it as well because it's got that nostalgic feel to it of stuff that we were watching when we were kids.
You know, looking at your career. You know, obviously you've had incredible success with action type of movies, and when we look at people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dwayne Johnson, who had kind of the same trajectory, they themselves stepped into the comedic world to kind of diversify themselves. And it seems like this is kind of your moment too, excuse me, where you're kind of stepping out from maybe, I don't want to say a comfort zone, but something a little lighter or more comedic. Talk a little bit about that transition for you.
Well, let's see how it's received first. But yeah, I've always had this side of me, to be honest. When I was a kid, I was the kid that had would make the movies and get all the friends around and would direct the home video and everything. And obviously I was making action stuff, but I was also doing comedy sketches and things like that, going through drama school, doing lots of skits and stuff. It's always been a part of me that, I don't know, pushed it to the side for a while, but it's always been there. Some of my other projects recently have had more of a comedic flair going on, not as much as this. This is fully going into broad comedy zone, but it's always been something, a side of me that I've got. But, you know, being funny with your mates in the pub is different to being funny in a movie, I'm sure. So we'll see how it goes.
What I loved about Max Cloud is he's definitely very self-assured. I mean, he has a confidence level. Talk a little bit about how fun that was to play with.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, yeah. I mean, he thinks he's got all the answers. He thinks he's the big-time hero, to which he is to some extent. But he's also a bit of a dick. And that's really his character arc, is to reveal that about himself and understand that he needs to change in some way. But obviously that's a lot of fun to portray. And I remember the director saying to me, "You're really good at being a dick, aren't you?" I was like, okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
You mentioned the director. I want to take you back a few years to some of your earlier directors. And that was like your first big break and when you started doing like Hong Kong-based films. And you worked with some incredible action directors. What did they ground you in? What did they give you at that point in your career?
I was very lucky to start in Hong Kong, being someone who makes a lot of action films, to understand immediately what it took to make good action, to make it the way it's supposed to be made, and to know exactly what needs to be done and the sacrifices that have to be made in order to get the best quality of action. And that's what I learned in Hong Kong, working with the likes of Jackie Chan and Yuen Woo-ping and Sammo Hung, that it's hard work. But more than that, to film the action sequentially and not waste a load of stuff on the editing room floor, filming from loads of different angles that are never even going to be used anyway. So I learned a lot and I paid attention and I took it onto all of my films that I did after that.
You know, it's interesting to acknowledge the prowess that you have in your athleticism. Kind of, if from what I understand correctly, has to go back to when you were a 13-year-old boy. Had somebody not robbed you, you might not have taken this path. You might not have ventured forth to how do I defend myself? Is it a strange paradox?
Well, I think I would have already ended up doing this anyway, because there's the two passions in my life are martial arts and movies. So I'm very lucky that I get to do what I love, and I'm kind of a two-trick pony. I like martial arts and movies. So I was born for this. But yes, that incident certainly made me ramp up the training, and I turned my dad's garage into a dojo with all the various equipment, and I lived in there. I didn't leave. So it ramped up the training, that's for sure.
We all have personal heroes in our lives, and the odds are we're not going to meet them. Yours apparently was Jean-Claude Van Damme, and you did 4 films with him. Did it live up to the expectation? Did he take you to a different level of appreciation?
They can never live up to it. It's unfair to expect them to be able to. And I'm talking about all of them. You know, you grow up with your heroes. They're just people. Like, I'm sure I've affected some kids that may look up to me, but, you know, I'm just a guy trying to do what I love to do. So that's what you learn is, like, you know, they're all just people. And for me to go into a film with Van Damme, like with the reverence of who he was to me when I was a kid, is not fair on him almost, because he wants just a colleague to work with, not some starry-eyed kid like, wow, you're amazing. So I learned that pretty quickly. You know, they're all just people, and obviously have enormous respect for what he's done with his career over the years.
Yeah, it's fascinating too that, I mean, a lot of people don't even realize how much money is made in the gaming industry. You know, like they release Call to Act, Call to War, whatever those things are called, and you know they can make $600 million in like an hour. And I think there's the same lack of appreciation for the direct-to-video market, that there's so many movies out there that people in smaller cities or around the world don't have a chance to go to theaters, and they're able to see movies. And you've had such a success rate in there. Can you talk a little bit about these movies? Because you've done almost franchises for several of them. And what kind of feedback do you get from fans about the accessibility they have with these films?
My career started to take off in a time when the home video market was going bust. It was booming in the 90s, massive industry. You know, you would have, if you got your theater release, then you would get a second life on video. But then it became like, oh, we don't even need a theater. We can make that much money on home video now. So all those sorts of movies were being made, catered for that market. And then piracy happened and they started to go away. So almost like the 80s, 90s archetype of the action hero changed as well, with Matt Damon as Bourne and Keanu Reeves, The Matrix, and all the rest of it. And now comic book movies and actors being able to look proficient in martial arts as action heroes because of all the tricks of the trade that you can do now. So it was harder for me to rise up. So the home video market, with the budget shrinking as well, it's very, very difficult to make a good movie on some of those schedules and budgets. But I pride myself on having a strong work ethic and just doing the best with what I've got. And obviously people have appreciated that over the years. And I found myself, thankfully, doing quite well and having a career out of it. But yeah, it's been difficult. I do wish sometimes that I would, you know, got a shot to play with a bit bigger canvas, with more money, more time, more budget. You know, still hoping. We'll see.
And I want to ask you too about martial arts, because for a lot of young kids, it doesn't matter whether you're a young boy or a young girl, you have the same accessibility to get on the playing field as unlike other sports. What would you say to young kids who are seeing some of your movies and are seeing the impressive work that you're doing, their path of how important it is, not only physically but psychologically?
Well, martial arts is a beautiful thing. Can teach you to be a man. You know, there's tenets of martial arts like courtesy and integrity and perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. Taxing yourself physically in these situations. It's not about fighting, it's about making your body stronger. But when you can, it's all in the head. So even though you're physically taxing yourself, it's your mind that's going to tell you whether you're going to give up or not. And when you put yourself in that position enough times, your mind becomes stronger, and it allows you to go out into the big wide world as a man, and deal with things in a much easier way. Because if you're taxing yourself in the gym, then normal life's not going to be as difficult as it might be. So I just think, also, if you're a kid that's, you know, got issues or a lot of energy and aggression, you know, you get to go to the dojo and get that side of you out of your system, in a safe environment. And then you can just chill out the rest of the time, you know, and be a nice member of the community. So, you know, it's a great thing. My kids, you know, are and will be doing martial arts.
And as we started with Max Cloud, let's end it as well. What do you hope audiences take from this movie? I mean, obviously you want them to be entertained, but is there any type of social message or theme?
No, not for me. Not from me. You have to ask the director. I just want people to have a good time. You know, we live in a strange time, don't we? Lots of anxiety and worry about. Just switch your brain off, have some fun, have a good time, maybe you know, a few laughs, and enjoy some action, and yeah, just enjoy it, entertaining.
And if you had the chance to go up in a rocket ship, would you do it?
Probably not. And I say that because I still haven't jumped out of an aeroplane. So surely I would have done that first. So probably not.
I think you're a very wise decision, Scott. The film is called Max Cloud. Scott Adkins, thank you so much for your time. And this is Scott Orlin. Till next time.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, mate.
And